Hello everyone, my name is Licity the Wonder and welcome to Designing New OCs, where I use the same template/pose and make 3 different characters. This is the template I'm using for all the characters, so technically I'll be tracing over it to keep the pose as consistent as I can. Our first character design just sort of jumped out of my head. The sketch took me only a few minutes to put together, and I think it's because I was very reminiscent of a movie that I used to watch a lot in my teen years, Cloud Atlas. Disclaimer, if you are not age 18 or above, there are a lot of adult things that occur in the movie, such as violence, adult language, and visually explicit content. However, if you are 18 years old or above, it is a great movie and it has great inspiration for me as it follows 7 different characters in very different timelines and uses the same sets of actors for each character, such as Tom Hanks and Halle Berry. The storyline which inspired me for this OC design was Seungmin 451. She is a clone and we meet her in a diner where it is set in futuristic Korea. She, as well as other clones, endure a trivial existence working in the diner, and one night, Seungmin 451 suddenly awakes and witnesses something which changes her life forever. My thought process with this OC is to lean more into the futuristic side and make her an android who appears human with her actions. Almost like Ghost in the Shell, but more of a slow burn where she begins to feel and explore the world in a new way than how/what she was originally made for. For this OC, I wanted to explore the idea of if androids/technology replaced humans in certain workforces such as the military or the police force and what that would kind of entail or look like. And thus, this character was born. If I were to continue with this storyline, I think I would probably integrate her into something I'm already working on, as she's already similar to a character I currently have, and I think that they would be fast friends. What do you think? For this next drawing, I really wanted a good excuse to practice different silhouettes, especially with hair. Kinky hair is something that I personally struggle with because I can't ever get it to form the way that I see it, so I used quite a lot of references for this one. I'll pin them on the sides so that way you can kind of see where I'm going with. The reason why kinky hair kind of gives me a little bit of a hard time is because it's hard for me to tell the different values that exist in the hair. And what I mean by that is that when you take like a simple photograph, because kinky hair is often so dense, you don't see all the different color hair strands as easily. At least I don't find that. And that 100% is a shortcoming of mine when it comes to my color blindness, is that anything that is a little bit too in shadow for me is really difficult for me to pull from. And I feel like it's even harder when I'm trying to communicate that to my fiance, who often color checks everything for me too. I feel like it needs to have more depth, and a lot of the time it doesn't. In terms of like her character design, however, I was originally planning on her being kind of a skeptic, where she grew up in a very spiritually religious kind of household, and in some ways she embraces that, and in a lot of ways she doesn't. Basically, think of like a natural born skeptic. And if I were to create a project for her, I would probably make a project around the idea of her not only learning about how the supernatural exists, but her also coming into her own with it, whether she ends up having powers or if she ends up not having them. I figured it would be a more interesting dynamic for her, because then it's kind of what's real, what's not real. And being a natural born skeptic would be quite a challenge because I am very much personally into the occult. I do think that not necessarily that everything is based in religion, but the stories exist for a reason. Whether they were interpreted the right way is up to the imagination, because the language has changed so much, but sometimes the things that go bump in the night went bump in the night, if you catch my drift. So this character was definitely the hardest. Back to my previous note of wanting to practice different silhouettes, I really wanted to practice what's referenced as an equestrian or the Roman nose. I find that silhouette to be personally very beautiful, and mine is actually technically manufactured because I broke it so many times. But the thing that I found difficult wasn't necessarily the nose or her features in terms of like her physical body type and everything. I struggled a lot with the hair because I instantly knew that I wanted to lean more towards the gothic aesthetic with this one in comparison to the other two with the futuristic and then the more modern day silhouettes that I just did. So the hair was very difficult because I tried so many different hairstyles for this gothic vampire, and it was definitely a struggle. It was not for the weak. She was actually supposed to be the second design, but I ended up having to stop everything and quit halfway through because I was just so frustrated with this design. It wasn't even funny. She took me the longest out of everybody for sure because I just wasn't feeling the hair. Every time I felt like I was getting close to like, yes, this is what I want, it was not what I wanted. As you see, like I'm messing with like, oh, well, I wanted a bun. Oh, well, maybe a ponytail will fix it like through the bun. Maybe I just need a ponytail. Maybe I can add some braids. I've been practicing with braids. Nothing was working out for me. Not even a little bit was it working out. For her storyline, however, I knew exactly what I wanted to do. What I wanted to do was basically, I wanted the disease to look more like a disease instead of the romanticization of vampires that we see in the media, cough, cough, Twilight, cough, cough, Vampire Diaries. I wanted her to appear very sickly, but also not so sickly that you notice if you, well, number one, are a medical professional, or number two, I wanted her to feel more changed, if you will. More a fraction, a hollow version of herself. Especially because her humanity was stripped from her. Being a bitten vampire instead of a born one is very different. A lot of different media covers it and the concept and the ideologies of it. I find personally the idea of vampirism very fascinating because you can really run with it. In this version, I'm pulling most of my OC inspiration off of Vampire Hunter D's aspect, where it is more like a disease. It physically changes your skin tone, your hair's color, it changes how you work. It feels more like an infection when you first start, and you only have a set amount of time to rectify it, but the first blood is always the hardest, and basically she's just kind of meant to be a hollow carcass of herself and existing for millennia and never really having that sense of feeling ever again. The humanity was not only stripped from the flesh in terms of she can't die anymore, but because she can't pass on, she's stuck in this forever existing limbo with a world that has become more and more foreign to her. Kind of like, in a way, how dementia affects the elderly, where you're slowly losing it, even though that your body is still here and you have certain memories. Hers are memories spread across eons of existing. And that was something that I really wanted to portray with her vampire version and her normal version. For this next character, I kind of wanted her to be a contradiction. And what I mean by that is, and you'll see it when I get to the hair part specifically, is I wanted her to look like a homebody, but also trendy at the same time. So more like a farmhand. That was my original intention. I wanted her to look like your stereotypical influencer, but also have some subtle notes of her not being an influencer. Like, for example, I gave her more muscle, and I also gave her more of a like softer face and a more trendy hairstyle, but also at the same time really wearing it down with the bandana that she wears and the color scheme that she wears. I wanted it to be a straight contradiction from everything else that I usually do, because I usually keep everybody pretty cookie cutter neat in how I want them to be. And I thought it would be fun to introduce the idea of like more clashing colors. Well, for me, clashing colors with the purple and then the orange that I give her. And I just thought it would be kind of fun. Plus, I have a weakness of blonde hair. I'm absolutely terrible at blonde hair. I don't know why, but for my color blindness specifically, and I don't know if other people feel this way too, but it always looks wrong. It always looks like it's gray and or too yellow, if that makes sense. Like, it doesn't make sense to the eye. And I use this character specifically as an excuse to practice with the blonde hair. Oh, there's the train. To practice with the blonde hair, because when I first started with the blonde hair before my fiance corrected me, it came off more of a, I guess the salon term is a cool tone blonde, which with her features doesn't fit at all because she has more of a tan and warm toned skin. And I tried to fix it with just doing the shadows, and I ended up having to scrap it and then redo it all over again. So that was a fun time. I had to very much like dull it down and make it not so severe. And then I also wanted to kind of experiment with sunspots, not freckles, sunspots specifically. Oh, I forgot. I didn't end up making her top purple. I ended up making it green. Oops. But I wanted the sunspots to be more like the contradiction, where it's like she looks Instagram pretty, but she still works outside. She still does manual labor. You know, the things that I grew up doing. And I ended up effing up her bandana design because I had to redo the whole thing. It was such a pain in the butt. I made it work though. And if I were to place her anywhere, probably just a walking contradiction in her world. That's it, pretty much. But thank you guys so much for watching. Here's all the characters side by side. I really hope that you participate in this challenge, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!